Hey, what's up? It's Nick Pagliochini, and still south of the border, still having an absolutely incredible time in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco, Mexico. Really being able to kind of take you around. We were able to showcase a bit of one of the art walks that happens every Wednesday from October through into the beginning of the summer before it gets too warm down here. And a lot of different things heading up to LGBTQIA+ Pride that's coming up this weekend. But I want to take you a little bit further into the community. And right now we're in this incredible home, Casa de los Pájaros, which is the very top overlooking both Centro and Zona Romantica here in Puerto Vallarta. The Bahía de Banderas is out there, an absolutely incredible view of the water. And it's something that I never really thought about. And I started coming to Puerto Vallarta back in 2022, and then starting to think maybe it'd be really cool to have a second home eventually. Granted, I'm a little bit young to be able to have that. Okay, 42, but whatever. No one's counting. But with that being said, there's a lot of things that we don't think about when we go to places and visit, and thinking about, God, I'd love to live here. Well, there really is an opportunity for that. And that is why I'd like you to meet Ryan Donner from Donner and Asociados, the incredible, handsome man and the mind behind what is really seems to be quite the dynamic group of real estate agents and properties that are here in Puerto Vallarta. But I want you to get to know Ryan a little bit better. So thank you for sitting down. Appreciate it, Ryan.
No, thank you.
So talk to me about you, and we're going to go real deep into your childhood and everything else. Consider this your Dr. Phil session or whatever it might be, thinking back to that. So talk to me about Ryan as a child. Talk to me about you and kind of your background and where you're from.
Well, I was born in Santa Rosa, California.
Okay.
But right after I was born, my parents moved to Chico, California, so just north of Sacramento. And that's really where I grew up. That is really home for me, essentially. I had a great childhood. My parents got divorced late in high school, so I enjoyed having two parents growing up, and I have two younger brothers. So I had a great time growing up in Chico. It was a small town. There wasn't much to do, but I think that is where my humble beginnings started.
So from Santa Rosa to Chico. And what were you like as a kid? What were, with your younger siblings? Because you're the eldest, right? You said?
Yeah,
two younger brothers.
Of two younger brothers.
So what was it like growing up? Talk to me about you as a kid. What was a typical day for Ryan like?
I was actually the good kid.
Okay, got it.
My middle brother is the bad one, and then the youngest is the careless, carefree, kind of free-spirited one.
Okay, so you're Mr. Responsibility, exactly, a little bit that way. Exactly. Okay.
I was the one in charge of, babysitting, making sure everything was fine when the parents were gone. I was the good boy.
Okay. Did you have any nicknames as a kid?
Growing up, my dad called me Bug. I have no clue why he called me that.
Okay.
I haven't even thought of that in years. Gosh, you're really diving deep.
Oh, we're diving deep. And I think the thing that we've learned with doing these in conversation pieces is people really like to learn about things, but people like to learn about people. Oh. And so building a background and being able to get a little bit more insight, everyone loves behind the scenes. So taking us back to, the beginnings of Ryan Donner and Bug is really important because it really develops out who you are and how you've come to where you are now. So Bug, what was things that you enjoyed doing as a kid? What did you do? Sports? Were you into athletics? Did you do anything that was artistic? What was your whole background like?
Actually, it's funny. My dad was very much, the macho kind of guy. Loved football, watching sports. I could care less about it. He tried to get me into all sorts of things, baseball, you name it. But I had zero interest in sports growing up. So no, I was more a gamer. Games. Got it. The Super Nintendo, or the regular Nintendo, had come out, and so gaming was a big thing for me. So I was usually in front of the tube watching or playing games.
Okay, I get it. No, and I love when you say Nintendo versus Super Nintendo, because I came from the world where we didn't have a whole lot of money when I was a kid, so we were always a system behind. Uh-huh. So I got an Atari when Nintendo came out, kind of thing, and there was a Commodore 64 in there somewhere, and then Super Nintendo when we went to Super 64? Was it?
Yeah, exactly.
So I get where you're coming from. Now, with that gaming part, did you enjoy any specific type of games? Were you a Super Mario Brothers, or were you like RPG? Or
in the beginning, there wasn't too many options, of course. So things like
Super Mario, the side crawlers, but I understand that. But
games have come a lot since then.
They have, but I mean, let's be real. I love a good game of Tetris, and that is nothing like Super Mario Brothers. So there's those options that are there.
No, definitely more the strategic kinds of games, the strategy. That type of game is what really interested me.
And that drew your attention.
Yeah.
As you were going through school, grade school, maybe into junior high, What did you look like as a student? What was school like for your education?
Oh, looking like it's a student and actually being a student?
No, both sides of the
I
coin
was
are really
a goofy
important.
student, goofy looking student. But I was one of those kids where I could care less about school. I mean,
Okay.
I was there to have fun.
Okay.
I was not there to learn.
No, that's fine. And I mean, sometimes it's for me, in talking to people, school is a developmental period. Whether you are book smart or street smart or somewhere in between the two, it's a very big part. And so I think that says a lot about you. While you may not have wanted to focus on the scholastic side of it.
Well, it's funny though too, because things like in elementary school, for example, I was pulled aside for reading, not because I couldn't read or didn't read at the same grade level as my peers, but for the actual opposite reason, that I read above their level.
Okay.
And so maybe, you know, that's what it was that that aspect of school, maybe I was slightly more advanced or something, I'm not sure, so.
Well, no, it's funny. Did they ever have gifted and talented education, GATE, or any of those special programs that
Yeah,
you're
I never joined anything like
Okay,
that.
because I was gonna say, because I sadly, you know, now I feel very boastful, but I was that kid.
Uh-huh.
So I did the same thing, and it was always, I thought differently than people. I read at a different level. I experienced things differently, and so I think that was a big part for me with how education played out. I was a great student on paper. I hated every minute of it. So I understand. You know, I wasn't necessarily the recess and lunch guy, but I would have preferred them to be able to talk to my peers rather than sitting in a classroom and being told what to do. So
Exactly.
So moving through junior high and going on to high school and kind of getting a little closer, inching closer to adulthood, what was that like for you as a family unit? There were 5 of you all together. You know, what was that like, and where did you play? How did that fall with your brothers and you and your parents? What was that like?
Well, if we
growing up?
dive real deep, then
Sure.
that's where my parents decided to separate, eventually get divorced in high school. And so that's where things changed a lot, because then growing up, my mom had a boyfriend. He had 2 kids of his own, so then there were 5 kids.
So you had a blended family
exactly,
kind of idea. Okay.
Exactly. 2 of them, we lived together. At that point, there wasn't much going on in our lives, so we were in like sharing basically a 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, we were down to nothing. Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
Okay.
it was a lot to handle, having that many people in a
Well, and I
small
think
space.
that at that point in life, because a lot of times we look at like the core memories of like 1st through 5th grade, but then we also remember that there's this next round that comes through, junior high into high school when we're building our adult value system. And I think that that's a big part of it. So having experienced that and how that all played out, plus then going from 5 kids to, going from 3 to
7,
kids to
yeah.
5 kids and, 7 altogether, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's really, that takes a lot. I know it's been a few years, but what was it like for you? What were you feeling or what were you experiencing at that point in time? Because also at that point, you've got hormones raging, you've got so many things else going on. So there's a lot of emotions and a lot of, different things that are feelings that are going on.
Oh, exactly. And I was still the oldest of
Right.
all 5 kids, and so it was definitely a struggle there. Yeah, how do you maintain living in that small space, growing up, dealing with, like you mentioned, the hormones, the emotions, and then also dealing with being gay. I think
Right.
that was another a big thing to deal with all at the same time. So it was definitely a struggle going through high school mostly.
And I think that's another big point, to hit on is for us and for us having a different background and having a different lifestyle than other people, and having a different thought process, because that's on top of everything you've shared, then finding out your orientation, your sexual orientation in there and trying to figure out how to navigate that on top of you being you and wanting to set a good example for your brothers and now for the extended family, and you seeming, and I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be that person that wants to be able to take care. You seem like a care provider, somebody that wants to take care of people.
I try to.
And well, no, but I'm just saying, like, that's a personality type that I've encountered, and it seems that, that may have been where you were at that point in time. And then, add one more facet to that. It's even more challenging. So now you're in high school, change in family, change in scenery. As you're moving through schools, did you have any thoughts about the future, what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go, or what you didn't want to do, or where you didn't want to go? Was there anything kind of, so many times people expect us to have an idea by high school, and I say BS to that. Only because I know there were 15 or 20 things I wanted to do then, and I'm not doing any of them now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I
And
mean, we all go through that.
That we do, but
yeah.
so what was it like for you? What were some of the dreams and aspirations you had? Did you want to become a gamer? Did you want to be a programmer to do that? Like, where did you start, and then when you hit high school, where did you actually go?
No,
as, like,
actually,
a first job.
yeah, actually, ironically, it kind of went the opposite direction from gaming. I had an interest in becoming a firefighter
Wow.
in
Okay.
the beginning days of high school. That didn't last very long, only because I have an eye condition called keratoconus.
Okay.
And it really limits my ability to see. I've had 4 eye surgeries after high school, but because of that, there was no way that I would be able to get into the fire academy, finish anything like that. So later in high school, that kind of changed, and in my passion for my Future Farmers of America programs that I was in.
Oh, I love this. You are definitely a Chico person.
Exactly.
No, like this is Santa Rosa and Chico and Northern California, if you're not familiar, are definitely those communities. And if you happen to listen to KFI AM 640 and you catch the Gary and Shannon show, which I'm a part of middays, Gary Hoffman and Shannon Farron, both are from Chico. And so we all know very, very well. Yeah. And then even if, not close, but up in the Northern California area, Jennifer Jones Lee, or Jennifer Jones with KFI and Wake Up Call originally, who now is back home in Redding. So we got a lot of people that are used to that. So so you were a 4-H member, which I love. What kind of animals did you raise? Or
I raised pigs.
I love it. Cochino.
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, so with that, you were looking at firefighting. And with the eye condition, was that something that you had all your life, or is it something that developed as you grew? Or
so keratoconus is a progressive disease. Usually it peaks, or it starts, in kind of puberty range, and then it slowly gets worse over time.
Okay.
So, as I got older, then my vision was getting worse and worse. Eventually, at the worst point before surgery, I couldn't even read the E at the top of the eye chart, for example. So
wow,
that's how bad my vision was.
So I'm saying you have experienced a lot. We haven't even hit adulthood, and you really have. No, but I think it speaks so much to who you are now, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I mean, that's a lot. Like, you really were doing that, and you would have looked great as Mr. July in the fireman calendar. I guarantee it. But then, even going to 4-H, did you want to do more things with farming and getting into animal husbandry or anything like that? Or?
So yeah, in high school, especially my senior year, I think it was my senior year. Now I can't remember. It's been too many years. Anyway.
It's okay.
They were really pushing for people to become teachers, specifically for farming, for agriculture classes in high school.
Sure.
And so I started actually thinking about that and going kind of that way. In fact, like planning for college to go the route of getting my teaching degree, be able to teach agriculture classes.
Okay.
But by the time that they had really started promoting this and got people on board, then I discovered that pretty much all of my peers around me were thinking the same thing.
Got it. Okay.
So that kind of changed my paths eventually.
How interesting. So then at that point, where did you go, or what was the next step? Or what did you, like, at that point, where was it taking you?
Well, then I went to community college.
Okay.
And so I was still kind of going that route, but then I had kind of switched towards more thinking about just agribusiness.
Okay,
so still
got it.
kind of a business degree, but focusing on agriculture.
So you went to community college, started pursuing that. 4-year or anything after that?
No, actually, I never finished.
That's fine. I dropped out, so I'm not even worried about that. And 17 years in media, I'm still here talking, so we're good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, no, it's fantastic. So then, what did you end up doing when you dropped out? Did you go into the workforce? What did it look like at that point?
Actually, that's kind of the reason I dropped out, was because I ended up getting a decent job.
Okay.
Living near Lake Tahoe.
Oh, nice.
And,
okay.
And so I went to work for this company, and so I didn't need to finish college, in my opinion, at that time.
No, I think, but at that point too, it has to do a lot with life experience, and I think, and I feel it could be the same way now, but not nearly as much. I think we were at the tail end of that age group that was able to still get away with, the experience stuff, as opposed to you can't get past an algorithm to get your resume submitted to a company now without having, the degree mark checked, or at least a 2-year. So. We were very lucky in that regard. So when you moved into the business world, what kind of roles did you take on? Was it just a worker bee, leadership roles? What was the kind of that in the beginning, and then where did it transition to?
Yeah, basically in the beginning, it was nothing special. I worked for a company that sold public records information, actually.
Okay, a job's a job.
Exactly. I mean, it paid the bills. It got me to where I am today, so it was definitely helpful to be in that position. I didn't last that long there. I ended up getting into kind of was part of the county position, but it's just a volunteer position. I mean, you get paid a little bit of money, enough to keep you going. But that's where kind of my passion for contracts and law and understanding things really started.
And I was going to say, we're definitely going to get deep into that because Lord knows where you are now, while gorgeous and stunning, has to bring a whole different set of knowledge and expertise that's required. So maybe that is a good point too. We won't talk about quite Puerto Vallarta yet, but when did real estate come on your radar?
Actually, before moving to Puerto Vallarta, I had kind of been thinking about getting into real estate. It got so far as to I had taken all my classes online, everything.
Okay.
I bought all my books in California to get my real estate exam, everything. I had my brokerage even lined up. It was a brand new brokerage in Folsom, California.
So you had everything squared away. Did you actually open the business or start doing anything there, or no?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I ended up moving to Puerto Vallarta, and so I didn't get into real estate until I moved here.
Okay, so when was the first time you came to Puerto Vallarta? Before even dealing all of that, when was the first time you came south of the border, even if it was in Puerto Vallarta? Have you been elsewhere in Mexico?
Yeah, I've traveled, actually, ironically, I have traveled more in Mexico than I have in the United States.
I'm going to say that seems to be more of a trend that I'm finding more. People don't know the 50 states as well as they know, the 50 other states in other countries. So.
Yeah, exactly. So my first time visiting Mexico was in 2008.
Okay.
I took a cruise, and Puerto Vallarta was one of the stops, actually, on the cruise. And I fell in love, obviously.
What was the draw for you when you came in, when you first stepped off the ship into port here? What was it like? I mean, 2008, beautiful men, beautiful beach, beautiful people, period. I mean, we across the board. But what was it? What were the standouts for you that kind of caught your eye when you first came in?
I think one of the big things for me, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, was coming here. So basically, a little side story.
Yeah, by all means. We got time.
Thank you. On the cruise, me and my ex met some people, and they said, "Oh, we know Puerto Vallarta. Let us show you around." So we jumped off the cruise ship. We took a taxi, and they said, "We'll take you down to Blue Chairs. It's the place to be."
Blue Chairs. Yep. If you know, you know.
Exactly. So we hopped in a cab from the cruise terminal, took the taxi down to where we thought we were supposed to be. In reality, they didn't really know Puerto Vallarta that well.
Okay.
So we ended up down at the very opposite end of the Malecón. And
got it.
Being our first time here, we walked and we walked and we walked, and we thought, geez, are we there yet? So they obviously didn't know it that well. We finally got to Blue Chairs, and that's where it was like, wow, there's a community here. There's something really special about this place.
That's wild. And so that was 2008.
2008, yep.
Experienced that. When did you come back to Vallarta? When was the return for you there?
Actually, every year after that, I started coming back.
Oh, really? Okay.
But then the second year in 2009, I think it was another cruise here. In 2010, I think was the first time I actually started coming and staying at hotels and actually staying here a week or longer. And so every year it got a little bit longer. Every year it got a few more times per year until finally in 2012, I decided to actually move here.
So talk to me about what that's like. And I think that's the biggest thing in talking to Kim and talking with her background and talking to Juan Alvarado, who's the owner of La Catrina Cantina. What it's like moving here is such a different world. So what was that experience like for you, just in becoming, an expat and moving down here?
Yeah, obviously, it's another country. It's a different culture. There's so many differences between Mexico and the United States. So for a lot of people, I can see that there is a culture shock. For me, I moved here when I was 24. So I think I was the youngest foreigner to move here at the time, maybe. And so for me, I think maybe I had a little bit better advantage of not being so locked in a box of my thinking as an American, for example.
Got it.
So I could be a little more open, a little more open to the concepts of moving to a foreign country.
I like it. That's good. And what has your experience, let's talk more so about then experience. What was it like finding routine here and finding, not only just becoming a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but finding your community, Ryan Donner's community? What was that like at 24 years old, going to a foreign country and starting? Because you were starting from scratch pretty much at that point.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Actually, that I think is probably the hardest part, or was the hardest part, was there is a difference between moving here and actually living your life here versus coming here on vacation.
Sure.
Because when you come here on vacation, it's vacation mode. You're at the bars, you're down at the beach every day, you're drinking, you're partying, you're enjoying your time here. And for the first 6 months after moving here, I was still in that mindset of, hey, this is vacation. This isn't a place to live and work. And so for those first 6 months, I didn't realize what I was actually doing, going to the beach every day. And then I said to myself, you know what? No, this is home now. I have to change. I can't do those types of things anymore. So after those 6 months, then I changed my routine. But in the beginning, it was beach every day, bars, restaurants, eating out, all those types of things that you do when you come here on vacation.
Which is great, though. But I think it was building that routine and finding your neighborhood. Now, so do you still live now where you lived then, or?
No, absolutely.
Okay, so where did you move originally? And I think that's something that's worth talking about. There's a lot of different neighborhoods. You already talked about Malecon, which, if you're familiar with Southern California, that's kind of the Strand in Venice. If you are looking at Cinco de Diciembre is one neighborhood, Amapas is another, Zona Romantica. So where did you end up initially, and then where are you now?
So downtown, Zona Romantica, definitely it's where I started because that was what I knew. That was what was familiar to me at the time. All of my friends lived down there, all of the bars, the restaurants, everything that I was familiar with were there. So I lived there actually for the first 4 years after moving to Puerto Vallarta. And then decided to go check out some other areas.
Okay.
So I moved to Versailles, which is kind of between the airport and downtown Puerto Vallarta, roughly, over by the hotel zone. And that was a great neighborhood to live in. It was nice to explore another part of Puerto Vallarta outside of the tourist area.
Sure.
And that's a great place to live, especially right now. There are so many new condo buildings, new restaurants. It has really become a kind of a gastronomic area. So right now it's a great time to be over there. After moving there, then I stayed there a few years, and then I moved to Cinco de Diciembre, so just where we are right now, just a little bit further north here. And I lived there for a couple years during COVID. And then now I live way back where most people don't live, that most people have even never been to, which is kind of over by where the zipline tour, one of the zipline tour companies operates. And so I live way out in the middle of nowhere. But I love it. I'm surrounded by nature. I have no neighbors. It's beautiful. So it's a great spot to be.
But I mean, in the time period from, was it 2012? Was that when you moved down here?
Yep.
To now. So, I mean, in a very brief period of time, realistically, I mean, a little over a decade, you have really experienced all things that Puerto Vallarta has to offer, which is absolutely incredible.
I think it's really important. If you're going to spend a lot of time here, if you're going to call Puerto Vallarta home, then you really have to get outside of just one neighborhood or just one area or just one little group of friends to go really get to explore and understand the true culture, the true offerings of Mexico, of Puerto Vallarta.
That's great. I think that we'll pause for now. We're going to move into talking a little bit more about present day in 2024 in part 2. But again, if you want to learn more about Donner y Asociados, give us the information of where we can find out about you.
Obviously, you can visit us on our website, ryandonner.com, or you can always stop into one of our offices. For example, we have an office in downtown Puerto Vallarta in Emiliano Zapata on Insurgentes, just before the bridge into Centro.
Perfect. And social media? Yes?
Absolutely. You can follow us, Donner and Associates, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the top platforms,
All of the things. And as always, you can find out more at the show notes at thisweekendwithnick.com or check out the link in bio on Instagram, always the easiest, Nick Pagliochini or This Weekend with Nick. This has been great. And so we got a little bit of BTS, a little behind the scenes and developing the background on Ryan. Be sure to check out part 2. We're going to delve into 2024 and kind of modern day Puerto Vallarta, what real estate looks like here, all those things. But be sure to, stick around because we got a lot more coming on. But as always, Ryan and I, we look forward to seeing you out and about this weekend.